Welcome to NASPA Tonight. I'm your host, Josh Greenway. This is the weekly Facebook Live show where we talk about all things Scrabble. This is the first week back since the big North American Scrabble Championship. We'll talk about some of those results, and we'll bring on our special guest, Bryn Bowen, who won Division II at Nationals in dramatic fashion. But first, what I wanted to talk about tonight was we had a loss in our Scrabble family. That was Avery Mojica, 21 years old, passed away in a car crash. So Avery, certainly, if you talked with people, was a real bright personality, had a lot of love, all that kind of stuff. So this loss was felt particularly deeply in the community. And what I wanted to do this week was start off the show with a short kind of video tribute or video memorial of Avery's appearance on this show from just a couple of months ago. So what you're going to see is a little over 3 minutes of video of Avery on the show with me and with Josh Jr., Josh Sokol. And so that's what I'm going to show you now. And then we're going to come back and we're going to get to the other parts of the show. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
We got it.
The first thing we're going to talk about is Atlanta. Okay. So, Atlanta, the headline here is obviously Avery Mojica's 19-0.
It's not a typo of any sort. This young man completely decimated Atlanta.
Oh, and you know what? I've got a surprise for you, Josh. Look at this.
I'm not.
Here's Avery.
I'm
Hey,
so
Avery.
surprised. Oh my god!
I know, right?
Avery, did it work? Does he believe that I didn't know that this was happening?
I accidentally told him about 10 minutes ago, so I think
That's all right. That's all right.
Wait, no. Even if like Avery is gonna say, "Oh, I got lucky," whatever, but like to be able to do this, you have to get more than lucky. Like there's no way to just win games like this.
Well, then
you have to
hold on. We better
have
ask
some element of just completely maybe intimidating your opponents. I don't know if Avery's a very intimidating player.
I mean, as a 20-year-old, some
something.
people find it intimidating, but I think around where I am, I think a lot of people just have kind of accepted me as one of their own, really, and have kind of looked past age. Because a lot of these people have known me since I was like 12, and I was playing way back when.
Are there any particular strategies that you guys have when it comes to studying in terms of either sort of daily rituals or prioritization for what you need to do? I know this can be highly personal, but
Avery,
any
you're
feedback?
much more equipped to answer this question.
Any feedback you have on that would be great.
Yeah, so last year for NASC, I was studying a lot more than I am now. School wasn't as hard as it was this semester, but I made it my own personal goal to have learned all the 2 through 8 letter words, which is a little bit higher than probably most people go for. I think I have a little bit more time on my hands though with summer and everything. So the biggest thing I did was I did aerolith every day, did all the daily challenges. I think that helps me with accuracy, speed. I think I personally do better when I manage my time for strategy. So I have a very strict threshold on solving. If I don't find something in 15 seconds, I put it in a list of things I need to review more.
Okay.
So then I put that into an Excel file, which I color code, and then I review from that. So I have a little system that works for me. And then once I've gotten through like 10,000 or something, I do a review of those. So that way I know I'm about as solid as I can be. And just if I hold myself to it, I try to do about 1,000 a day, if not more. And at this point, though, that's a little bit more feasible because I've gone through all of them. But if I was just starting, it'd probably be closer to like 250 or 500.
Gotcha.
So it's just a matter of pacing yourself, knowing your own personal limits, making sure you're not sacrificing what else needs to be done, like work, school, your family, stuff like that.
So there you go. A little bit of life balance advice thrown in at the end there. I like that. So there we go. Thank you for watching that. I also wanted to say I spoke with Avery just in the last couple of days before we lost him. That was during the NASC live stream, and we were looking for some help on Twitch moderation to look at comments coming in and all that kind of stuff. And immediately we just said, hey, let's check with Avery and see if he's around. And we were like, hey, you want to do like 12 hours of free volunteer work? And he was like, absolutely, I'm gonna get on that. So and he helped us out with that just in the last couple of days of NASC. So let's transition a little bit. So number one, you may have seen on Facebook that I announced we're going to have a new schedule for the show. NASPA Tonight, for the last year, has pretty much been a weekly show. And now we're going to go once every 2 weeks for now. That's really just a kind of personal prioritization. After doing, I think it's 58 shows in the last 14 months, I'm finding that there are a bunch of Scrabble projects that I would like to pursue that I keep putting off. So I'm going to try to balance that out a little better. So the next show after tonight will be on August 20th, and I expect to keep going on a every 2 week schedule for a little bit. Other changes around here, you may notice if you've seen this show before, there's no sign behind me. We're getting a new sign made for NASPA Tonight. The old one, which has stuck around for a couple of years, that is now in a big crate that is kept at NASC and gets delivered to wherever the next NASC is. We still don't know where that is, by the way. But yeah, that sign stayed in Reno and got shipped to wherever that stuff gets stored, and we'll be coming back with a new sign. Now, let's talk about Reno. Let's talk about our show this week. Obviously, we have a new national champion. That's Alex Seaholm, the youngest North American Scrabble champion ever. And that was very exciting. If you watch the stream, that came down to a best of 3. It played right down to the third game. We're going to be posting those episodes on YouTube very soon. So watch out for that. I'll probably post those and encourage our community to watch those games for as long as possible. The average amount of time a video is watched on YouTube is looked at very favorably by the YouTube algorithm. So we're gonna kind of post it in a way where we can get some of those long views up front, and then hopefully that will mean those videos just have more legs and will gather more of an audience. But that was Division 1. Let's talk about Division 2, because Division 2 was a very, very dramatic finish, and I want to welcome our very special guest in studio, Bryn Bowen. Bryn, come on in here. How are you, Bryn?
Good, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being here. You were here. Pull up a little bit. Let's let
Get
everybody.
nice and cozy.
That's right. Exactly. So, did you have a good time in Reno?
I did. It was quite the experience. My first nationals and good times all around.
That's right. Your first nationals. You've only been playing Scrabble for like 2 years. You only had 20 tournaments before going to Reno, which is pretty crazy. So there may be people watching who don't know who you are at all.
Well, they will know after tonight.
That's right. So here's what I want to do. I've got an extremely short video. This is a recap of an interview we did with Bryn in Reno. And this will give you kind of, it's under 2 minutes, and it'll give you just a quick rundown of what his background is rather than kind of retread that stuff. So here we go. Okay, let's look at the standings. You're currently trailing Bradley Whitmarsh, but you're right in there in Division 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of good players in the mix, and it's still very early, so long way to go.
Absolutely, but good day so far for sure. And the other thing to say is this is your first NASC. Is that true?
That's correct. First NASC, first time on NASPA Live. It's
Wow.
a day of debuts.
It's called NASPA Tonight.
Same difference.
Oh, wow.
Here's what
He's
we're
not
gonna
invited
do.
back.
I'm going to ask you.
Last time on this show, I might add.
Tell me what your impressions are of NASC.
It's actually been amazing. I got here last night. I came in and I just checked out the venue and the spectacle, and I was a little eyes wide open. It was a lot more than I expected, and definitely motivated me to bring my A game today.
Sweet. You were going to play with your B game, but then you're like, you know what? Maybe I'll play with my A game.
Maybe
That's...
I'll bring my A+ game tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh,
Could
well,
just as easily
we'll
bring
hold
my
our
D
horses.
game, so I make no promises.
True. So how long have you been playing competitive Scrabble?
Will be 2 years in September.
A noob.
For sure. And he's got a good story, too.
know
You
each other.
played competitive athletics, I think hockey,
Yeah.
and then you stopped doing that, but you still wanted competition in your life. Is that right?
That's actually very, very accurate. There's a lot of parallels between athletics and Scrabble, and definitely it's a way to bring out those competitive juices. And yeah, there's a lot of parallels. I mean,
What's on the agenda for tonight? What are you doing tonight?
well, to keep the athletics theme going, I'm gonna have a good meal and early to bed. Get up and at it tomorrow. So serious business.
Okay, there we go. So that gives everybody a really brief rundown of what's up with you, Bryn. But I wanted to expand on a couple of subjects there.
Sure.
So you have a history playing hockey. What kind of
right.
level of hockey? Like, what are we talking about here? How long did you play hockey for?
Well, geez, I played pretty seriously throughout my youth. I played prep hockey. I went to 2 different boarding schools. So I
Really?
went to one in Nova Scotia, and then also in New Jersey for a year. So AAA prep would be the level.
Okay.
And then actually in between finishing my education and starting my job, I actually played in a semi-pro league in Newfoundland for 6 months, which was very interesting. But I thought my days were done. So anyone who thinks they're done with Scrabble, just remind yourself that it's never over.
That's right. Actually, it always scares me when I see people who are really into Scrabble and then they just quit and like never come back.
They all resurface.
I don't
Talking
know.
to you, Kenji.
So that's pretty serious then. If you went away for a couple of years
Yeah, 4
to different, jeez, man, that is wild. I can't imagine doing that. So obviously that was a very big part of your life, and you talk about in that video that there are some parallels.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can expand on that. You talked about competitive juices and stuff, but is there anything
Yeah.
more kind of specific?
So, like, I do want to say, for me, there's a lot of parallels. Scrabble is a game that attracts a lot of different people with a lot of different talents and a lot of different approaches to playing the game. For me, I've always treated it like a sport. In a lot of ways, it was able to sort of replace that competitiveness that I had sort of lost from my life as I transitioned from education to the working world. I really enjoyed that. It's definitely... I felt like a piece of me was missing without it, and
Right.
frankly, I was new to Toronto, just getting my feet wet here, just starting a new job, new life, and I literally on a whim just showed up at the Toronto Scrabble Club one night. I mean, I wasn't a big player or anything.
How did you find out about it?
Google, literally. I mean, I was like a keen casual player. You know, I
Right.
played online. I played on ISC. I'd never studied words or anything, but since I was a little guy, I just used to play with my parents and stuff. I mean, I wasn't completely new to the game when I showed up. I was new to the competitive game, and not having studied words was quite a obstacle to try to overcome. But yeah, that's how it started.
Well, I think one of the interesting things with your Division II win after only 2 years and 20 tournaments, I think one of the questions that people would have for you is sort of how did you manage to get that good that fast? So can you talk a little bit about your development?
Well, first of all, I disagree that I got that good.
Look, you're pretty good. You hit 1,800.
Well, thank you.
You're a brand new brand new expert level, 1800. That's fantastic. We'll see if you hold on to that.
Yeah, it'd be a tall task.
But that's a pretty quick progression. So can you talk a little bit about some of the steps along the way?
Well, as any higher ranked player knows in this game, when you start, you tend to get hooked, and there's excitement and a bit of obsession. And I've very much toned down in the last little while. Last 8 months, my preparation for Nats was not anything special, but definitely that initial 6 to 8 month period, I was pretty intense with Ziziva and playing online, and still am to an extent, but I definitely think I have a healthier relationship with how I spend my
So for
time.
those 6 to 8 months, how many hours do you think you were studying a week?
Studying is not really what I focused on. I definitely played a lot more than studied.
Right. And you played a lot of Quackle games, right?
I played a lot. Actually, played a lot of ISC.
You've got a nickname for Quackle.
Oh, the Speedy or the Duck or
Yeah, I don't know. Your good friend or your.
Oh, you're referring to the Canadian national.
That's right.
From last year.
Exactly.
Yeah, my good friend Speedy Player. Yeah, that's a running joke because I'm too lame to play championship player because I prefer the open word finding boards that Speedy Player plays. And anyways, people that know Quackle know what I'm talking about. But no, honestly, I have a pretty disciplined, Ziziva study program. It's schedule. It's not that structured. It's actually very unstructured. But I plug away at it 15 to 30 minutes to an hour sometimes every day, and that's
Right.
just I didn't change any of that leading up. That's just kind of become an ingrained habit at this point. I did waste a lot of weekends in the lead up just sort of messing around on ISC, playing speed games. Kind of looks on the surface to be not that productive, but it's really good for word finding, really good for board vision. Those high prog words, like you literally learn them by playing a lot of IC games. I sort of thought, it felt like a bit of a cop-out. It felt like, hey, you worked a lot, you're just coming home, and now you're going to do some practice, and hey, this is going to be a bit more fun than just grinding away on Ziziva. So I felt a bit undisciplined, but at the same time, there were benefits, for sure.
Very good. Well, we're getting a little chirping by our friend Shauna Bossy, who says that you gave up your sports career to pursue the fame of the game, and toddler Bryn could win Division 1 unless he gets distracted by the cookie jar.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. And also Zev Kaufman wishes you mazel tov. So
Thanks, Zev.
let's now talk about what your preparation and what your mindset was like at Nationals, because obviously people take Nationals pretty seriously. But I felt in talking with you while we were there that you were extremely, pretty disciplined. So can you talk about that?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly the amount of sleep you were getting. So
Which
let's
is
talk
weird
about your
because
thoughts on that.
I do not get much sleep during my day-to-day life, so I guess I was on a vacation from work, so maybe it was my body telling me to catch up a little bit. No, honestly, a lot of it wasn't even by design. I just showed up, basically with my game face on and said, hey, we have 7 games every day. I find the more I try, the better I do, like a lot of things in life. But no, that's actually really true in Scrabble because it's easy to get lazy. So I basically committed to, hey, this is a big opportunity, really grind down on every single turn for the entire tournament. And I found that after 7 games, go out and get some dinner with the guys. I was very tired. I wasn't.
So you were doing what? You were doing
myself
10
to sleep,
hours sleep, 10 hours, maybe more?
Oh, you should ask Kenneth Rubin. I roomed with him, and I can tell you he does not sleep 10 hours a night. So, well, 10 sounds about right. But definitely the early to bed and not partaking in any extracurriculars certainly served me well while I was there.
That's right. Although we had a good night out on the last
Yeah, that was
day
fun.
after the whole thing was over. Okay, let's get into your tournament here a little bit. What we're going to take a look at is your game-by-game record. So let's go to that now, and then I'm going to bring this up so we can see it. Okay, so your first 7 games, you go 6-1. You take a loss to Bradley Whitmarsh, who we'll get into. You end up matching up at the end of the tournament against. So, that's a significant gain for sure. But you must have been feeling pretty good after day one. It certainly seemed like it in that little interview that was filmed after day one.
I was pretty pissed about the loss. To be honest. I think it's important to have that killer instinct, but at the same time, reflecting back on those games, I think I've posted most of them online. I got pretty lucky in a couple of them. Not to say that I didn't deserve to win the game, but I definitely made mistakes. I definitely felt like I deserved to be punished for a few of them, and I wasn't. So that was fortunate.
Well, look at those scores on day one. Like every other game except for the loss, you're at certainly everything's a 400. You've got a 500 in there, but a couple of high 400s. Like that's a hell of a first day.
Yeah, I think to win nationals, you have to any division, you have to have a certain amount of luck. Definitely ended up in the black when it came to total blanks, and there's no doubt about that. So things like that.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Do you know how many blanks you drew out of the 31?
I've quit my blank counting days. I would recommend
What's your advice to people who count blanks?
Well, I don't know why people like them because they're worth 0 points. So just forget about it. Yeah, stop worrying about it. But no, come on. Everyone knows that the tiles and blanks especially are important, and I felt like I got the requisite luck to do as well as I did.
Right, gotcha. Well, and I always think, counting blanks is a funny thing, because in the end it's going to even out. Like one year I played 510 games over the course of a calendar year, and won hey, you played the most games. I literally drew there was one difference in blanks over 510
Yeah, I'm not
games.
surprised. It would tend to converge to a pretty even number.
For sure. Let's take a look at day 2. You pull off a 5-2 day. You drop games to Andy and to Max.
Yep.
So anything to remember here? You put up 581 on Curtis Lee. That's a hell of a score.
Yeah, I think that game was influenced by some lost challenges on his part.
Okay.
So it's kind of an inflated score because of that. Andy played really well in that game. He beat me. That was the first game of the tournament. Well, it was my second loss, but I really felt like I didn't have much of a chance to win that. He was just playing very well. Game against Max was actually super interesting.
It's like a 7-point game.
I lost the game in quite embarrassing fashion. I was actually pretty happy with ways I found to stay in that game, and then there was a complicated pre-end game position, with a J out there, and I mistracked and thought there was another O out there, and I was low on time, and I actually had the case O, and it should have sealed me the game, but I fumbled that one. He played very well though.
Tough. Okay, let's look at day 3. Looks like we've got 4, 2, and 1, so that's your worst day to date. You've got
Tough games though.
Yeah, so let's take a look here. You've got a tie against Bradley. Bradley is going to be a theme here.
Yeah.
So
me not beating him is going to be a thing too.
You take another loss to Andy over that thing, and you take a loss to Sal. Shout out to Sal. I doubt that he's watching, but always love Sal. So tell me about day 3.
That was a tough day of the tournament. I think it was kind of like golf analogy. Saturday's the third round of the tournament, and they call it moving day. That's when people tend to you can't win the tournament, but people are continuously shooting themselves out of it. And that day certainly felt like people were kind of positioning themselves to be in there with a chance in the last 2 days. I got the sense after that there were maybe 4 or 5 people that could realistically win. I was pretty happy with where I was at, but I also didn't expect to go 6-1 on the next day, which really set me up. So put it this way, I still had to go 6-1 after that day.
Yeah.
To be in that position, so it's hardly I wasn't in first place at that point. I think it was in second, probably. We were still.
No, you were probably down a little bit, and then got back to second on the 4th day, right?
We'd
have to look at it. Let's go into that 4th day since you previewed it at 6-1. You take the loss to Matthew, but otherwise, you're just scoring like crazy. You got a 547 on that day, a 494. That might be your first win under 400 points in the first game there.
Oh, what, the 399?
Yeah, against Michael.
That day
anything
that day had an extremely memorable game. Definitely what I will remember is the game of the tournament for me, and honestly, the game of my life to this point. But yeah, that fourth last game against Paul Terry, 4-13, 389. I was down like 75 or something. The bag was empty. There was nowhere to score. I was grasping at straws to try to figure out what to do. There was one bingo lane that I sort of played in on the turn before, hoping that he botched his block. But, it was pretty simple. I'm going to play here, he's going to block, and he did. And I actually bingoed out with a 10-letter word through disconnected tiles to seal that one.
What was the word?
Inundators. So,
wow.
yeah, I wasn't 100% sure it was good, but I was like, hey, I'm gonna try this out and see if it works. So it felt more luck than skill, but that to win a game, and that was certainly a game I really helped to win. To do it in that fashion on that stage was felt pretty good.
That's amazing. So going into the final day, 3 games to go, you're in first place, right? At the beginning of that morning. You come in, you get the win against Brian, and now it's you and Bradley. And Bradley's got to win both to catch and pick up enough spread. So this is where it starts to get more interesting, because you lose the first game by 31 points.
Yeah.
So what is your thought at that point? Because I seem to remember someone said you had clinched, but you hadn't clinched.
Yeah, I remember that. So that makes no sense. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So if there couldn't be more of a jinx than someone announcing that you had clinched Division 2.
Yeah, I actually remember asking Bradley before the game started. I'm like, I'm not being crazy, am I? We didn't miscount games. Like, no, I have not clinched in any conceivable fashion. But he agreed that I had not. So.
Damn. And so what I want to know is, what's your reaction after losing that game? Like, are you... Because for me, I've been in a position, lower division, no question, right? I've been in a position where with 4 games left, I had to win 2 to take home a lower division, right? And I screwed it up. I went 1-3 and just completely imploded, right? And I'm sure my mentality had something to do with that at that time. It was a very early tournament for me. So at that point, are you doubting yourself going into the last game, or are you what's the expression I'm looking for? Are you ready? Are you ready to pounce?
Still in the zone?
Yeah.
Definitely still in the zone. Bradley played really, really well in all the games I played against him. I didn't feel like I straight up blew any of them per se. They were very difficult games, very complex positions. If I'd made a big blunder that I kind of would definitely win the tournament, and then I messed up this play, and that's the reason I lost. Maybe I would have been jarred a bit more. That second last game, I actually don't remember it that well. Just that I was fairly happy with how I played. I made some mistakes, because I always do, but it didn't. I don't remember it, really affecting me in any great way. And I think that's important for a tournament like this. I didn't actually lose 2 in a row until the very end, and I think one of the reasons for that was, like you said, results. People can, negativity feeds on itself, and mistakes can metastasize. And I think I did a good job of, just
you can pull in a little closer, but
not even thinking about the results. You look at your rack and make a turn, and do that enough times and see what happens. It's kind of what my mentality was.
Well, I think that's pretty impressive, considering you're 0-2-1 against Bradley at that point. You're matched up with Bradley for Division 2, and he's got to win the game by how many points to take the division?
Yeah, honestly, the spread thing was pretty ridiculous. I mean, it's such a slim margin that I'm in no fashion thinking, hey, can I win this tournament on spread, I remember I was talking to my dad the morning of, and we were kind of going through scenarios. I'm like, yeah, well, 3-0, I'll obviously win. 2-1, I couldn't see any way that I don't win based on the matchups. And then I sort of said, well, I think there's a 1% chance that I go 1-2 and win. And that's actually what happened.
So Bradley needs to win by 7.
Yeah,
is that right, to take it?
I'm ahead by 12. So if he wins
Yes.
by 6, we
It's a
split,
tie,
we split
yeah.
nationals.
Yeah.
If he wins by 7, he wins. If I lose by 5 or less, then I will win.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's ultimately what happens, right? He won by 4. Is
That's
that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about that game. How close was it? Who had the last play? Like, just give me a summary of that game if you were telling another Scrabbler, since that's who
Well,
our
I mean,
audience is.
in a nutshell, the recount occurred while the clocks were still running, but I literally won on a recount. That is what happened. And
Oh my God.
Bradley was very gracious. I mean, I know it's in the rule book. He was, doing a private recount, and
Yeah.
he mentioned to me that he got a different score for one of my earlier plays.
That was in your favor.
Yes, yeah, and
God.
I'll get into it once I go through the game. But that changed everything. I'm sure we would have recounted anyway. I'm sure I would have found those points, but I don't think it would have affected the move I made. But it potentially could have. So
Yeah.
I definitely thought that was very sportsmanlike from him to stop and say, hey, I get a different score for you. But that game I was just obviously trying to win. I knew what the stakes were. I knew there was a good amount of money on the line for one Scrabble game because an awful lot can happen in one Scrabble game. And frankly, I don't really know how I ended up winning because, out of the gate, he went ahead by a lot early. I was, not only did I not really have a chance to win the game, I wasn't within 30 or 40 points for basically
Right.
the entire game until the very end. He was just scoring a lot, and I think I was just trying to score some as well to sort of stay within range. But yeah, the tipping.
Okay, so take me down
Yeah.
to the end. When does
Yeah.
it get close? And what's the final sequence of
Yeah.
plays?
So
look like?
actually, I had.
And also, why isn't this game annotated on cross tables?
I had incomplete racks for it. I've posted some of my games, but no,
Okay.
this one will not be going on there because I don't have the sheet anymore.
Well, oh Jesus Christ!
Yeah, I know.
All right, hopefully Bradley does.
I don't hoard all
Keep
my
going.
sheets like some people.
I have every sheet from every game. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, the position was I actually had Claude. I mean, I said I wasn't within 30 or 40, but I think right until one of his last plays, I think I had cut it to some kind of manageable deficit. And I remember it was a fairly close board, not many bingo lines, and he played a high probability bingo tonsured for 70 something to go up by 70 something. It was pretty close
Yeah.
at that point. And I think there were 9 in the bag, so I'm feeling pretty dead in the water at that point. And then I am starting to think about spread. When I'm doing my calculations, those 6 points mean everything.
That's
and,
right.
I was very, very close to challenging tonsured, even though I was 99% sure it was good, because I could not really find an avenue to win after that. And now I got extremely lucky because everything that had to go my way did. But I ended up not challenging, ended up playing Curry for 36 points. Then we actually get into the end game. He makes a really nice play that the X is unseen and has the potential to. It's a weird position because there's no obvious X scoring play, which is
Okay.
unusual. So he empties the bag, plays the word caking, setting up an X threat, and goes up something like 50 points. So bag's empty. I'm down like 50, and he just made an X setup. I'm wondering how I'm going to win at that point. So anyway, I did have the tiles to, it was a really lucky combination. I could use his setup,
Okay.
blocking his X, scoring 30 points in the process, and then also leaving a high out, which he can't block. So it's a perfect storm. And then not only that, he's stuck with some high point junk, and the X is kind of more of a hindrance than a help.
Right.
Because you can't really score with it. So yeah, all those things went my way. But just to get into the details, I mentioned with the recount earlier, I was going through all the end game scenarios, and I was coming up with me losing the tournament on 2 spread points.
Right.
And I could not believe it. And then 2 things went my way. One, he actually missed his optimal outplay. Everyone knows Bradley's a Collins player, and with such high stakes on the line, his optimal play was ticks. He wasn't 100% sure on it, so he played a slightly suboptimal play. that ended up gaining me 2 spread points. So his slightly suboptimal end game goes from I'm thinking I'm losing the tournament by 2 spread points
Yeah.
to are we seriously going to tie the tournament?
Right.
And then as we were recounting, Bradley mentioned that there was 2 extra points that I hadn't accounted for,
Man,
which
oh,
equates
man.
to 4 spread points. So in the space of about 1 minute, I thought I was losing to I thought I was tying to winning.
That's pretty crazy. And,
Yeah,
and
it is pretty
obviously,
crazy.
obviously, kudos to you. Kudos to Bradley. I mean, I think that the instinct would be to swallow those 2 points and not call them out. So props to Bradley for that. And it certainly sounds like an exciting final game, final end
Yeah.
game. Why
was
don't you
pretty
have the
nerve-wracking.
sheets anymore? What do you do with your sheets afterwards?
Well, I
you
have-
didn't think about keeping
I
that one?
have some of them. Probably I should have. But you know, the score sheet was so messy. It's pretty spastic just trying to do all the arithmetic, and I don't know. The moment, I have the memory. That's really what it is.
Well, there you go. And now we got the memory down on film or whatever on hard drives. So that's certainly an exciting story. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
You pick up. Here we'll put this up on the screen. This is your final record. You're 22-8-1, 1,600 spread points and 83 ratings to put you over 1,800. Sitting at 1,820 today. Any plans to take this rating out on the road? You don't play that often. 20 tournaments in 2 years. I mean, for some people that's a lot. What's your next tournament?
Well, Josh, we've had this argument before. I will always play tournaments when they're sort of accessible and somewhat reasonable to do from a life standpoint. I'm consider myself a bit of a Scrabble junkie, and
Yes.
I don't think people know me as someone who willingly doesn't play tournaments.
You're just busy.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pack up for the weekend and go on the road a whole lot.
Okay, so we got Ottawa coming
But
up.
to
the
answer
end
your
of this
question,
month.
no, I'm not. I have no intention of sitting on it for no reason.
Okay, so you're going to put it out on the road. So here's my question. A bunch of us are going to Ottawa the end of this month. What do you think? It's a long weekend. Probably not going to be working the long weekend. You should come on out.
Yeah, it's
Me, Jackson, Josh Jr.
Yeah,
We're going to have a good time.
I have a lot of people trying to convince me. I will.
We're going to get an Airbnb.
I will be up front and say it's unlikely because
Why?
I have a lot of work obligations right now.
Over the long weekend? Okay,
There's-
I won't push too hard. We've also, coming up soon, we've got Lake George.
I am planning on playing Mississauga though, that one day in August.
Okay.
Hey, it's a tournament.
No, shout outs to Sean, who's been here in the broadcast the whole time for the outdoor tournament. I will not be playing the outdoor tournament for other reasons. But, yeah, so what I wanted to talk about was Lake George, mid-October. That's a tournament that you should consider. And I also want to tell the audience, Lake George is really picking up steam. We're at 80 signups so far, and we've built that sign-up list from scratch. Normally, Lake George starts out with sort of everybody who played last year gets added tentatively. None of that is true in this case. All 80 people have said they are in. We're hoping, while Lake George normally does about 140, we're thinking that there may be a little bit of slippage in terms of that number, but we're going to keep pushing and hopefully get that to 120 or higher. And we're going to see what happens there. Hopefully, you'll be one of those players.
To be determined. Many of my closer friends in the community know that I'm really bad at committing to tournaments in advance. So you
Yes.
could very well see me in Ottawa. I'll probably send someone a text on Friday night and be like, hey,
Sounds good. Well, we'll already be there. That's the problem. You got to send it Friday morning or Thursday night.
if I want to play, I'm sure I will find a way.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, listen, I want to thank Division II champion, Scrabble junkie, my friend Bryn Bowen. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I want to thank everybody for watching this week. Like I said, going forward, we're going to be on a kind of every other week basis. So we'll be back August 20th with all new Scrabble guests and topics and all that kind of stuff. And I'll leave you with the sign-off that I always use, which is, support your local directors. They're working hard for you. And, thanks, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.